before we get to all that, first, our opening report. And the New York Knicks and the Brooklyn Nets, folks, are both out west, and they return home to the city this week coming up. And when they do, they will face one another for the first time this season out in Brooklyn. Both teams currently have winning records. They are both on 5-game road trips, and they were both in action last night. And a couple years ago, folks, a matchup of the Nets going to Golden State to face the Warriors. Let me turn down my mic a little bit. All right, it sounds really loud in my ears. All right, folks. A couple years ago, a matchup of the Nets going to Golden State to face the Warriors would have been major news, with Kevin Durant going back to face his former team, whom he won his only 2 championships with before spurning them for the Nets. But of course, the Nets are now a former team of Durant as well. But Steph Curry is still in a Warriors uniform, and he was in vintage form last night, scoring 37 points and making 6 of 8 three-point attempts. But you know what, folks? Steph was not the highest scorer of the game last night. That would come from someone in a Brooklyn uniform who scored 41 points on a very efficient 15 of 24 shooting. That would be third-year player Mr. Cam Thomas, someone who in college led all of college basketball in scoring at LSU. This game went all the way down to the final seconds, and when it would be all said and done, folks, the Warriors outlasted the Nets last night in the Bay by the final score of 124-120. The Warriors ended a 3-game losing streak and are now 11-14, yet 11-14. 3 games under 500, and they, of course, have had a lot of drama surrounding their team, as their enforcer, Draymond Green, has been suspended indefinitely by the league for a number of on-court incidents that, had he been anywhere but on a professional basketball court, might have drawn him assault charges. Straight up. And I'll talk a little bit about Draymond later. The New York Knicks were in Los Angeles last night, 24 hours after an inspiring win in Phoenix against Kevin Durant and the Suns. In that game, second-year Knick Jalen Brunson scored 50 points, made all 9 of his three-point attempts, and did not miss one shot in the second half. The Knicks were riding high, but that high was killed last night in Los Angeles, and not by the GOAT LeBron. Nope. As you see the shirt. Nope. It was not LeBron and his Lakers. The Knicks lost to the Clippers last night, who won going away in the second half after a very competitive first half. The Knicks held a lead in the first half, but the Clippers closed the first half on a 20-5 run, and that would be it. The Clippers, after a slow start, folks, have won 7 games in a row. They won, like I said, by 22 last night, and a shout-out to Kawhi Leonard, a 2-time NBA Finals MVP, and a man who a lot of people wanted to put up there on the same level as LeBron just a couple years ago. Kawhi last night had 36 points. He looked outstanding. Paul George, a long-time Knick killer, all right, dating back to the 2013 playoffs, okay? He finished with 25 points last night for the Clippers. Our boy JB, Jalen Brunson, had, after a 50-point night on Friday, had 22 last night on 7 of 17 shooting, 7 rebounds, and 6 assists in 33 minutes. His co-star, Julius Randle, and I just put up a video on social media, Jules and JB, giving those two guys props for what they've done here in Knick uniforms. All right, Jules matched JB in scoring last night with 22 points, and R.J. Barrett and Dante DiVincenzo had 18 apiece for the Knicks. All right, folks, so I mentioned the Knicks gave up 144 points last night, right? I'm talking about, all right, all the scoring. I mean, 22 for JB, 22 for Julius, DiVincenzo 18, RJ 18, and Knicks had 122 points last night. And the problem right now is how many points they're giving up. All right, and they're giving up a whole lot. The NBA in general, there is a lot of scoring going on, and a lot of people like to say, "Oh, they don't play defense in the NBA. They don't play defense." That is ridiculous. All right, as if these players don't care if their man scores on them. Okay, of course they do. The reason why we have all this scoring right now is because the talent level of the NBA players has gone through the roof. I've talked about this for years, all right? The players keep getting better. The skill level keeps getting better. All right, these ball players can do it all. They can shoot, all right? They can dribble, all of them. They can dribble. People talk about how, all right, sometimes you have isolation basketball or there's not enough passing going on sometimes. And they'll compare it to like the Knicks teams in the 70s, right? But it's interesting because when you look at the game now and the game in the 70s, most of the guys on the court in the 70s could not put the ball on the court and create their own shot, get to the basket, do what they wanted to do. Now, everybody on the court pretty much can put the ball on the floor, dribble, shoot from anywhere. It's ridiculous. So many talented ball players in the NBA, which is another reason why, to me, it's the most entertaining, interesting sport in the country. And people, since I was a kid, have asked me, Samori, what is your favorite sport? And I've always said, I've taken pride in saying, and I've really always felt this way, that for me, I loved all three major sports equally: football, basketball, baseball, okay? That's honestly how I've always felt, all right? And I've had people say, oh, I don't believe you. You've got to have a favorite. No, I've always loved all three sports the same. And of course, there are in different seasons, even though some of the seasons kind of overlap, but I've always loved all three the same. Excuse me. And I'm not saying that I like the basketball, all right, the most, like it's my favorite, but I'm saying that the NBA, to me, is the most interesting, entertaining sports league in the country, in the world, period. But since I'm not, all right, a world watcher of sports, all right, follower of world sports, all right, I'll speak on the United States. Here in the U.S., NBA, nothing is topping the drama and the skill level, all right, that we see on a nightly basis, all right? New storylines, okay, daily, because there are games being played daily, all right? The NFL, I watch the media, and for 7 days, all right, before the next game, okay? Well, 6 days, because the day after the game, they talk about what happened on Sunday. And then from Tuesday up until 1 o'clock on Sunday, everyone in the media is talking about the same game coming up on Sunday for 6 days, talking about the same tired storylines over and over again, all right? Over and over again. It's like, yo, this is not interesting. It's amazing to me. And I know that when you see what's going on, I guess, on TV and what they have for the programming, they go by what they feel like the ratings say and what gives them the best ratings. But I'm like, really? Like, who really is interested in watching something all the time where you have people who are repeating themselves about the same old tired storylines? Because the NFL, they play once a week. And it's amazing to me, just people hype up the NFL, and it's just, all right, people just repeat themselves for a week talking about NFL games. But NBA, there's new action, new storylines happening every night, okay? We're on something fresh, something entertaining, okay? And I'm going to get to some of that right now. Before I do, just back on the Knicks scoring, okay, or the Knicks, how many points they're allowing. The Knicks, they, about 12 days ago, 12 days ago, before they played their quarterfinal match in the end-season tournament against Milwaukee, going into that game, they were number one in the NBA and fewest points allowed, all right? And now they're number 6, okay? And they had, when they were number 1, they were allowing 105 points per game, and that was number 1, all right? So it just tells you, it's amazing, right? the team who on average was allowing the fewest points per game were still giving up 105 points a game. Well, right now, they're giving up about 109 points per game, I believe it is, and they dipped down to 6th fewest points allowed. And the last few games, it's been rough for the Knicks, okay? They've given up a whole lot of points, okay? And they really have to tighten the screws on defense. They lost one of their stalwarts, all right, on defense in the middle, Mitchell Robinson, all right. He is a defensive ace for them, and he's out for 8 to 10 weeks. I mean, that's a big blow for them. He does not score much. I get on him all the time for his lack of an offensive game because there are too many times when you see him and he can't make a simple 5-foot shot, and if he's not under the basket dunking the ball, he's not scoring. But not even that, because if you do that every time you get the ball under the basket, you throw it down, fine. But there are times I noticed in the playoff last year in big games when he would get the ball down low under the basket and he's fumbling with the ball. And one thing Mitchell Robinson likes to do a lot when he gets the ball under the basket, instead of just going straight up and dunking the ball, he slams the ball down on the floor first, like a power dribble, with the two hands, boom, and then goes up. But by that time, the defense is fouling you and making you go to the free throw line where you are not a good free throw shooter. So I have my issues with him as his offensive game and being a liability at times. And I wanted the Knicks to get Kristaps Porzingis back last all season, and I would have loved to have him. All right, not as good defensively because he's not as strong, but KP is a really good defensive player, a great rim protector, and a way better offensive player who can shoot and stretch the floor.